The American South is probably the last place that anyone would expect an influx of foreign influence, as it has always had the connotation of being an archetype for American culture. In the 17th and 18th century, however, the American South was of great importance to the Spanish and French kingdoms. We will take a brief look at both Spanish and French influences at the Matagorda Bay area of eastern Texas, as well as New Orleans, Louisiana. The influences of both kingdoms in the 17th and 18th century have contributed to elements of culture that exist in both areas today, as well as forming modern borders such as the Sabine River. Louis XIV, the King of France in the 17th century, and Charles II of Spain both wanted establishments in the American South in order to cement their legitimacy as powers in the New World. Spain already had significant strongholds in what is now present-day Mexico and Florida. France, eager to challenge Spain's monopoly in the area, decided to launch a voyage to colonize the area. Of course, there is the question as to why this area was of such importance to both French and Spanish kingdoms. The answer lies largely in part to the position of the Mississippi River. Crossing 10 states and reaching as far as north as Canada, control around the Mississippi River would allow significant control over regions of the United States that had not yet been established. We will begin with France's attempt to reach the Mississippi, which ultimately led to a brief establishment in East Texas. In early 1865, Louis XIV commissioned René Robert Cavalier to lead a voyage to the United States. The specific goal was to establish a stronghold at the mouth of the Mississippi River as a way to slow down Spanish claim on the territory. While Cavalier succeeded in reaching the United States, he did not land quite where he had intended. Instead of landing somewhere between Louisiana and Alabama, where the mouth of the Mississippi River is, he landed in present-day Inez, Texas. The issue can be attributed to the erroneous navigation of Cavalier and his crew. As seen in this map, Cavalier mistakenly thought that the Mississippi emptied into East Texas, denoted by the blue line. In reality, however, it emptied about 400 miles east of where he had first thought. The true location of the mouth of the Mississippi is denoted by the red circle. Even though he did not land where intended, Cavalier attempted to establish a colony in Texas. Today, we refer to Cavalier's colony as Fort St. Louis, although it was actually never formally named by any of the colonists. The Karankawa Indians proved to be quite hostile upon the arrival of the French. There were numerous instances where the Indians, who were indigenous to the region, attempted to thwart the French colony by staging multiple attacks on the small establishment. This, on top of increasing pressure by the Spanish to the south, proved to be detrimental to the success of the colony. Ultimately, René's colony was a victim of circumstance. The land proved to be not as fruitful as the colonists had hoped. The Spanish, who were threatened by the proximity of the French colony to land they had already laid claim to, also tried to deconstruct the young colony. It is rumored even that they supported the Karankawa Indians in their attempt to destroy the new French colony. By 1689, Fort St. Louis had become a ghost town, with Cavalier himself fleeing the colony in hopes of finding a better place to establish a French settlement. The influence of the French remained, however, for centuries to come. In the early 1700s, Spanish Captain Domingo Ramon established a new establishment for Spain on the exact same area where Fort St. Louis was located, in hopes that it would deter the French from gaining a stronghold in the coveted East Texas area. Upon arrival, Ramon ordered that all French paraphernalia be either burned or buried. Spain attempted to establish a presidio on the former site of Cavalier's colony. Unfortunately, the Karankawa Indians proved to be too much of a threat to warrant the Spanish staying there. After abandoning the former site, the Spanish established a colony a few miles inland and ultimately resurrected the presidio, which still stands today. In the late 1990s, over 200 years after French and Spanish influence in East Texas, archaeological bodies opted to dig for remains from both French and Spanish influence in Victoria County. Diggers were able to find 8 French cannons from the Fort St. Louis establishment. In addition, they found over 1,500 artifacts from both French and Spanish colonies. According to census data, there is an elevated number of citizens in the area with French and Spanish heritage as a result of the colonies from centuries prior. Even today, there are still events marking the unique cultural celebrations and reenactments that have been cultivated by the French and Spanish influence of the 17th and 18th centuries.